Right, I'll just do a little intro for you. Yeah, okay.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I think
Time's
so.
up.
Yeah, yeah. Hello, everybody. I'd like to take your seats, ladies and gentlemen, including Ian. Sorry. Come in, sit down. Oh, listen, I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased you've all come because,
Paid them.
honestly, because this is this is I was saying to the last session, this is the topic that I've written about in my magazine more over the last 2 years than any other topic. And the reason that I've done that is because I think it is really important. Now, it's really important for two reasons. It's really important because you need to turn your mobile phone off. Sorry, it's really important because because we've got to try and protect the environment. But it's really important for you because if you don't embrace sustainability, I'm afraid you're going to be out of business because your customers are not going to want to deal with you anymore. And that is the truth of it. And that is why I've been banging on about this for the last 2 years to the point where people are becoming bored with it. But I promise you this is true. And so I'm absolutely delighted that we've got a session on this today. And I'm particularly delighted that all you've come. And I want to tell you a little story. I'm sorry for taking Vicky's time, but this is really important, I think. I've just come back from Toronto, where we had the IAM conference, which is the biggest removals conference in the world. There were 2,000 people there. We had a session on sustainability that was fronted by the president of the association and four other worthies of the industry who were the top of their side of the business. There were 2,000 people at that conference, and there were 20 people in the audience listening to this topic, which I found very, very disheartening. And we've actually got more here today than we got there. So thank you for coming. And please allow me to introduce you to explain a little bit more about it, a lot more about it than I ever could. Please, from BAR Services, Vicky Watson.
Thank you. I have no idea if these are working because I haven't spoken into it yet. So can you all hear? Okay. Everyone's a bit clearer, a bit louder. That better? Fabulous. Right. Thank you very much for the lovely introduction, Steve. So I am Vicky Watson. I have been working for BAR Services for approximately 20 months. Most of my work in that time, I do 10 hours a week, is based on sustainability. I think it's really important to kind of point out at the beginning that I am not some grand expert on this. I was new to this in the first place, and I thought that this was going to be like a fairly simple, straightforward gig. We make things more environmentally friendly, we find better options for people, and we put them out in order to sort of help the removals industry. It isn't quite as simple as that, and I think it's really important to kind of take it all back to basics, because a lot of these words and the things that we're talking about and discussing have all become a bit conceptual, and it's kind of hard to get a grip on what's actually important for us and for how we're going to use it as a concept. So I'm going to start with kind of just going back to the words that we're using. I think in the past sort of 2-3 years, we've kind of had to grow this whole new lexicon of things that, these are words that we didn't use 5 years ago. And I'm just going to start with the basics. Things like furlough and self-isolating are words that came around, and we've kind of enveloped those when they came in because we were using them all of the time. This stuff, we're kind of getting told it, but we're not really using it, and we're not seeing how it's useful. So in terms of sustainability as a term, mostly people tend to think that it's just about the environmental side of stuff, and it is not. It is about development. It's about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And it is basically 3 pillars of things. It's having social aspects, economic aspects, and environmental aspects. And in actual fact, like as a business, you're all naturally doing those things anyway. And I think we need to be able to shout about those in a way that we can present that information to our customers more efficiently, more effectively, in order for you guys to win business. As Steve said, we're not going to get anywhere without kind of embracing these ideas, and I'd like to be able to help you do that. Circular economy. Is anyone aware of circular economy? What that means? So it's basically using resources more efficiently so that they don't become waste. Traditionally, we've sort of thought of business as something a little bit more linear, which is, we take a product, we manufacture it, we use it, we chuck it in the bin at the end. That's it, end of. So with circular economy, we're just trying to reuse it to make the most of our resources to make things more efficient. Carbon footprint. So this is, bandied about all the time. What it actually means is all the different greenhouse gases added together to create an equivalent value. It gets measured in tonnes. What does that even mean to us? Like, it's just literally a number, isn't it? I've got no idea. When you start looking at it, carbon footprint, you think, this notebook, what's the carbon footprint of that? In actual fact, to kind of give us a little bit more tangibility, 1 tonne of carbon dioxide, if you had 2 water butts full of petrol and burnt all that petrol, that would create 1 tonne of carbon dioxide. 1 gram would be the equivalent of a chickpea. I mean, that's the ginormous chickpea, but not a regular sized chickpea of petrol burnt is 1 gram. If that gives you any idea of sort of the size of the numbers that we're talking about. Carbon neutral and net zero are 2 things that we're hearing about all of the time. And what do they mean? So carbon neutral is just literally the count of the carbon dioxide needs to be not add to the total amount in the atmosphere. With net zero, it includes all the other greenhouse gases as well. So we come back here. The greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and other refrigerants. So the net zero counts for everything. Carbon neutral is just literally the carbon dioxide. Right, I'm going to press driest mouth in Christendom. A new term that I think we'll be hearing a little bit more about in the future, not just the carbon footprint, but now will be the carbon handprint. So this is basically going to become kind of the get out of jail free card. With the carbon footprint, in terms of measuring the carbon dioxide or carbon dioxide equivalent, there's also other, we think of it sort of straightforward. If you're burning the fuel, it's the carbon dioxide that goes into the atmosphere. Actually, the footprint needs to measure other things as well. So you've got the toe print, which is like the amount of carbon dioxide made in extracting it, in transporting it to the place that it needs to be. There's a lot of other areas. Carbon handprint is also the impact of the stuff that you're using, and it's just kind of be, I think, where companies, because it's almost impossible to put a measurement on all those distribution, all those little things. The supply chain goes back and back and back, and you can count, the carbon dioxide of the labourers. What are the people going to work? What they eating that day? How are they burning it? Or the transport it takes them to get to work. There's so many different layers to it. Handprint is about actually a product will have a positive impact. So in removals, you might consider, the carbon footprint of the packaging, and I speak about this because obviously this is what I'm familiar with, of the packaging that you're using. So you could say, we use bubble wrap to wrap something up. We're wrapping up a TV. The carbon footprint of the bubble wrap is, I don't know, random number like 100. But actually, it's not recyclable, or it's not necessarily seen as green. But actually, the handprint means that the way that is packaged is protecting the TV. So it means that the product is going to last longer. It's like a trade-off, isn't it? It's a little bit more valuable. So actually, the TV doesn't get broken. That negates then the need for the additional carbon in building a whole new TV. So actually, like, the handprint is kind of a admitting that there's a trade-off in between the decisions that we make. So that's the kind of what's in terms of the language that we're using. Really, it's about the whys. Drink. I get so nervous. I hate talking at these things, so you have to forgive me the nerves. So for sustainability, the United Nations have come up with 17 goals. They're pretty unarguable in terms of no poverty, no zero hunger, and they're all like a list of things, a list of wants, if you like, for the perfect sort of business in terms of how it's going to grow and how it's going to develop in a way that we can help the world. In actual fact, like this all sort of seems quite conceptual, and it's stuff that we're working towards. From like the COP26 as a country, our government has signed up to say that we are going to make some changes. We're going to be doing things that support these ideas, and these will kind of come to us in terms of the legislation that comes in. Plastic packaging tax is there to support this. The ULEZ, congestion charging, fuel taxes, everything really comes down to these ideas and the things that we're going to be doing. And these are decisions that were already made. So they will impact your businesses and what we're doing. So what we need to be able to do is look at them in terms of breaking things down, and looking forward to the future, how we're going to have good impacts in these areas ourselves. They're split into the 3 different groups. We heard recently someone describe it more as an idea as a bowl of spaghetti rather than sort of separate things. So actually, like each of those 17 goals will cover maybe one or more of those different sort of green areas, or of the different 3 areas of sustainability. So, it's just a view. The benefits of using these goals and using sustainability to your company is really, the most important thing, and this is critical for understanding, why we should be using this stuff, what we should be working towards. It is, meeting consumer expectations is the first sort of main thing. Deloitte's accountants have done loads of surveys on this recently. So the trends go back to sort of choosing brands that have environmentally sustainable practices and values. 43% of people say that is important. More consumers take this into consideration when making a purchase, the packaging, the products. People are apparently prepared to pay more, but I think actually these days it should be a baseline. It's like an expectation, isn't it, that something will be green, and if it's not there and you're not providing the information, then they're just going to presume that you're not. So it's really important that you're able to kind of back up the work that you're doing, to say that you are, so that you're meeting those expectations and winning the sales. Your company reputation, so by using these ideas of sustainability, it shows that you have professional standards, that you're high-reaching, it gives you credibility, it means that you're trusted, and it just elevates your image, which is going to give your customers a little bit more confidence in what you're providing for them. Long-term planning and business viability. So this is about kind of looking to the future, the things that are going to be impacted, as I've said, regulatory requirements, the financial savings you can make, the resources that you're using. Is paper going to become more expensive? Is plastic going to become more expensive? The changes that's going to have. And actually staff retention as well, because there is a social value in this. And the longer you can keep your staff working for you, it's going to save you money. All the training and input you have into the people that you're working with is an investment, and that's an investment into the company. So how to get on board with those benefits? So we've created there's a couple of different ways you can do it. So for bigger companies, you might consider kind of getting an accreditation. There's like third-party certifications, and I know that quite a lot of people out here today, especially the bigger companies, have been doing that. You can look to the Carbon Trust. There's loads of information online. But I think actually this is about what we can do on a smaller scale. And actually, it doesn't take a lot to just kind of have a little review of the work that you do and make some changes. So you can do a review of your own business as an assessment. So I've kind of done a little form, and it's kind of a checklist that you can go through and think, actually, this is sustainability, and I am doing these things already. And I think we do need to pat ourselves on the back and say, yes, we're going through, I do carry out staff training, I do look at staff welfare. I am covering all the health and safety legislation that I should. I am working to a standard. I've split that down into sort of the 3 groups, but I think it's really worth spending 5-10 minutes going through that, looking at the stuff that you're doing already, and actually just making a decision about one thing that you can change. If you can make one little tiny thing at a time better, it's going to improve the impact for the company as a whole, and review it sort of every 6 months, 12 months, and just make those sort of incremental changes will help you come on board with it. So you might have heard of greenwashing. Is anyone familiar with that? So greenwashing is sort of the term where companies will give false information or misleading information about the company, like how green they are, the products that they're using. And it's really important not to tell a lie, which is why if we start with the smaller things, none of it is a fib. Green hushing, in opposition to that, is basically not saying anything and sort of holding back from it because you're worried about being misleading or not telling the truth. And actually, that's just as bad to not say anything at all, because you'll be seen to be not getting involved in the process. If you don't want to talk about it, that's absolutely fine. But if you've done that work, when your customers ask, you know that they can come to you and you will have the information. It's just about kind of being prepared, and you don't have to go out and shout about all this stuff. But actually, what you will have to do is have the work done and in place. If you do want to talk about it, there's principles of what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. So there's a Green Claims Code, which is written by the Competitions and Marketing Authority, so that helps you as a business to comply with it. So anything that you do say, anything you are putting out in terms of advertising, must be truthful and accurate, clear, and doesn't omit or hide important information. And you can put stuff out on your socials, tell the story of what you're doing, in terms of, if you break it back to like your staff welfare, if you've done a training event, how are you supporting people? Is it fair, you're paying people fair wages? There's loads of like little bits and bobs that actually create part of the bigger picture. And you can use that to advertise your company, basically. It's just marketing, really. If you're telling a story of things that you've done, it puts out the information in a really clear manner. That means that it's going to be measurable, it's going to be authentic, responsible, knowledgeable, engaging, transparent, and story-based. That's a real sort of important list of stuff, because if you can go through all of those things and say that, it's going to cover your Green Claims Code. You're never going to be telling a fib about it. And actually, it's a way of engaging your audience as part of it to show that the work that you're doing. What I would really like to see, especially for the smaller businesses coming in, is actually putting out one good thing. So when you go through and do your list, you can always make one small improvement, and it's one small improvement at a time that you're able to then put out and advertise to show people that you're doing the right things. And in doing that, it kind of elevates the whole industry, so it highlights the positive aspects of removers and what they're doing, that you're being thoughtful, that you're thinking about it, trusting, you're engaging with your community. You can build trust and confidence in your business. One of the things I thought of when I was sort of putting this together, when you go back to your list, if you want to do one good thing in terms of recycling or reusing your boxes, it could be that you take the beaten up old ones that are no good for you anymore, and you take them down to your local nursery school for them to use, to build something out of, reusing, recycling, or they go to a shelter or a food bank, or once stuff is not necessarily good for you, doesn't mean to say it's not good for use at all. And actually, that's one thing that engages you with your community. You can use it for marketing, and generally it will highlight sort of a sustainable approach. And it's always nice to do a nice thing. Thank you very much for your time. I hope it's been helpful. I've got copies of the Self-Assessment Business Review. If you wanted a copy of that just to kind of go through, it's a little 5-minute exercise, just kind of get you thinking in the basic ways about the levels of sustainability. So if you want a copy of that, just drop me an email. Email address is up there. There's loads of information out there on the internet, and I would really recommend looking at like Small Business Britain or one of the free courses that will give you a lot more information than I'm able to do in a short session today. And you can go and do stuff that's flexible and online and for free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicky. Are you happy to take any questions?
Yeah.
Anybody got any questions for Vicky? If you have, then please use this thing, because otherwise we won't be able to hear you. come on, folks, there must be something you want to know. There's something I want to know, but I want to give you the first go. Okay, can I just ask you something? Because just while they're thinking, because I'm sure that they're just being shy. The BAR services. One of the things that that the people are trying to do is to move away from plastic into something that is more sustainable. And I understand what you're saying about the television set. I get that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody else does too. But I just wonder if you can tell us whether you think there has been a recognition of that by your customers, and if the alternatives are available and if they work.
The feedback that we're kind of having from our customers is that the alternatives available do not work as well as the less environmentally friendly options at the moment. But it is stuff that gets worked on. There is innovation with it. There's different ways of looking at stuff. We're kind of led by what our customers want, what they need, and the information that we get back from them. So we then go to our manufacturers and say, this is the problem that we've got. Can you give us a solution? It's kind of two ways. But we're not in a position to tell people what they're going to use or how to use it. You guys are out there doing the job. It's got to be efficient and effective for you, and it's got to be cost effective. Totally understand that. It's kind of a work in progress.
So there's a way to go yet.
Yeah, sadly.
Any other questions before we close? No? Well, thank you very much. Vicky Watson, thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next session, by the way, is in it's about half an hour. And we're going to be talking about Google, about getting leads on Google and how to do it and how to become top of the list. So be back in half an hour. Thank you.